I've been through the language learning process many, many times, and one of the most common questions I get asked is, how do you learn a language quickly? How fast can you learn a language? These are questions that are legitimate and also interesting to look into. I have some bad news for you. There's no magic pill. There's nothing you can do to make yourself speak a language magically overnight or even in a few months to the level that you imagine you're going to speak it. So, first of all, acknowledge that you're a human being. Acknowledge that sometimes we expect a bit too much of ourselves and that we need to maybe think about what we need to do. And there are ways to do this. So there are 5 tips that I can give you. How to manage your expectations and how to achieve the goals that you have in mind. So the first thing would be to take a pen and paper and just use a computer if you want and write down what you want to learn the language for. What's the reason? Is it a holiday? Is it to go and visit a specific thing, a museum, an art gallery? Is it to go and attend a meeting or an event? And so you have an idea in your head what kind of situations you're going to be in. Number 2, once you've decided what you're learning the language for, then think of the types of situations you're going to be in. Do you need to check into a hotel? Do you need to talk to the taxi driver? Do you need to ask about certain things about maybe an art gallery or a museum or something like that? And you have an idea of the kinds of conversations you're going to have. Point 3, what you should do then is look at the time frame that you have. So when are you taking your trip? When are you using your language? And where are you now? How long have you got in between those 2 periods of time? And then break down in months and weeks what you're going to aim to achieve in those times. So it could be at the end of the first week, you want to learn how to greet people and just introduce yourself. The second week, you may want to move on to another topic, and so on and so on and so on, until you get to your final goal. The next thing that you should do is to remember that you will forget things. So concentrate on what you need to know. It's very tempting when you start learning a language to see a list of occupations and you think you have to learn 100 or 200 words for different jobs or different colours or anything and everything you can imagine. There are many, many words for many different topics. But focus on what you want to say. Make it about what you need to communicate. Because the rest you can get later. You need to focus on what you need to know. So focus on the words you need to know to help that process of not forgetting and worrying about forgetting all the words you don't need to know. Then finally, point 5, I always say practice, practice, practice. Now, this sounds like it means you need to have lessons all the time. Actually, that's not true. What you need to do, I recommend 2 contact lessons a week where you actively study the language. That could be an hour, it could be 45 minutes, depends on your comfort level. But make sure you do have at least 2 hours where you move forward in your studies. In between the lessons, you should space those lessons out, of course, so that you have time in between. In between those lessons, you should then use that time to revise what you're doing. Maybe it's rereading your notes. Maybe it's listening to tapes. Maybe it's practicing with somebody. Maybe it's just thinking about what you've done. Try recreating in your head the sentences, the vocabulary that you have been encountering during your lessons while you've been studying. The biggest difference between a successful language learner and an unsuccessful language learner is the final element. Practice, practice, practice. It has to be regular and you have to commit to it every day. Make sure you say to yourself, I will do this, set a time and set a goal for when you're going to do it before you do other things. Good luck with your language learning.